We're ready for the start. They're off.
Welcome in, everybody. It's the First Bet, First Call podcast. Jeff Siegel, Jeremy Plonk. And Jeff, a lot of times we can't wait to get into the weekend, but this is one of those Fridays that's pretty darn big too. We've got a $200,000 carryover plus in the pick six, dollar pick six at the Belmont at Aqueduct meet. And oh, by the way, it's opening day at Keeneland as well. So this is a fabulous Friday. Looking forward to a 3-day weekend of racing, if you will.
We have, I know we have 8 grade 1 races Saturday and a Sunday. We got one actually today at Keeneland as well for the 2-year-old fillies, the Alcibiades, and I'm looking forward to that because that division, the juvenile 2-year-old filly division, is still kind of looking for a leader, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll be watching that. Good race there. There were so many good races this weekend. We can only do 8. Although we could do all of them and we'd be on for like 9 hours if you want to do that. But we got 8 grade 1s to handicap, but so many other good stakes races around the country, here at Santa Anita in New York, certainly at Keeneland, around the country, Woodbine. Mm-hmm. So, it's almost too much of a good thing, but we'll manage to survive and try to get through it. And looking forward to critical prep races leading up to the Breeders' Cup.
If our biggest problem is there are too many good races, we've got good situation to be in. This weekend, when you play with First Bet and Express Bet, I want to remind you there is $30,000 in hit and split promos with Keeneland's pick fours early and late on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Grand total of $30,000 going to be given away just this weekend alone to people on those two platforms, First Bet and Express Bet, who take down those pick fours wagers slated for Keeneland. So you get your pair of mutual winnings and your share of $30,000 split just with others who win on the platforms. So be sure if you're playing Keeneland in those pick fours this weekend that you do it with First Bet and Express Bet. Jeff, let's look at the menu of races that we've got coming up for this podcast this week. We're going to start at Woodbine, north of the border, as the fillies take part on the turf in the EP Taylor. Fillies and mares on the turf there, getting set for the Breeders' Cup where they move up on the calendar. The EP Taylor typically another week or two down the line in October, and kind of kept the international scene away from the Breeders' Cup a little bit. There's no Canadian International this year. They moved the EP Taylor up to be in that window 4 weeks out from the Breeders' Cup, where it could be a prep as well. So we'll see how that impacts that race moving forward in the future. Of course, we got 3 stakes races on Saturday at Keeneland that we want to take a look at among 5 that they're offering on a big Fall Star Saturday program. Santa Anita's got 3 big ones, the Chandelier, as well as the Rodeo Drive and the American Pharaoh. We'll look at the last 2, those grade 1s. Belmont at Aqueduct's got a really good card on Saturday, their second straight week of Breeders' Cup preps. The Joe Hurst Turf Classic, the main event there that we will handicap in this segment. Also want to remind you that on Saturday night, it's the West Virginia Breeders' Classics at Charlestown. Got a $10 money back special when you bet those races with First Bet and Express Bet at Charlestown on Saturday night. If your win bets in any race, finish second or third, you'll get your money back. And on Sunday, Jeff, a lot of good races around the country. Santa Anita's got the 2-year-olds on the turf in the Zuma Beach and the Surfer Girl. Nest is running in the Beldame at Belmont, but the main event will be the Spinster with defending champion and their Latruska going in the grade 1 at Keeneland. So let's get into our handicapping process throughout these 8 races, and we're going to start at Woodbine, Jeff, in the EP Taylor. We talked about just a moment ago that, this race has been moved up in the calendar. Might give it more flex as a Breeders' Cup prep, but maybe it took a little bit away from the international cast in here because we don't have the international runners in here that we're typically seeing in EP Taylor. We do have My Lady, a German bred who's been running in Germany, coming over, but not a huge European influence in this year's EP Taylor.
Kind of surprised me, too. I mean, you'd think 1.25 miles firm ground. I think they may have firm ground there. $750,000 purse. You'd think someone would come over. It's not like we've got any world beaters here. Although Moira, to me, is really intriguing. Now, I'm going to end up picking her here at 3-1, although I recognize that there's a lot that has to happen here for her. She's tracking older horses for the first time. She's going on grass. This is a whole, she's out of state bred or restricted company.
Right.
So this is really a test for her. And at 3-1, I would probably want more. This is more of an emotional pick than anything else because I really like her. I mean, she's a daughter of Go Saffron. I think she's terrific. I'm kind of intrigued that they picked this spot, and it tells me that they think that maybe the grass will be fine for her, and maybe they want to see if she belongs, perhaps for Breeders' Cup considerations. But from where she's drawn, I think she's going to get a great trip. I don't really have, obviously, any problem with the mile and a quarter. She's already won the Queen's Plate with that. The main question is the grass, Jeremy, and we don't know. I mean, she obviously breezed satisfactorily enough for the connections to give her this chance, and we'll just see how good she is. I think she's pretty good, and numbers-wise, she's right there. So why not root for the home team and go for Moira to win the EP Taylor?
Well, let's see if she can double down on that Queen's Plate that you talked about from just a little while back. She was awfully impressive that day on the main track.
Down the outside, and in the blink of an eye, has raced to the front, and it's Moira out in a lead 2 lengths, racing home as Fallen Dreams down the outside. But the mighty filly has devastated them, and the 163rd Queen's Plate is a big win for Moira. She is stunning, wins 6 lengths. Fallen Dreams second, Surface Shore third, Ironstone fourth, Dancing to Nail fifth, then Rondu, Huntmaster, Duke of Love, the Minkster.
So Moira, she won the historic race at Woodbine, the Queen's Plate. Again, like you talked about, though, restricted the horses who are just Ontario bred. This is going to be a much tougher test in the EP Taylor. You got Chad Brown sending Rougier north of the border. Chad's got to look for spots to run his bevy of filly and mare, turf division horses. He also has La Mista in here at more of a price. Chad's got to be respected when he goes anywhere with these fillies and mares on the grass. Jeff, what do you make of Rougier in here or La Mista?
I think Rougier, I thought, was going to be a really good filly for him this year, and she really hasn't fired recently. Now, she is a first-time Lasix user. Maybe that's the key. I don't know. La Mista is decent enough. She's got tactical speed. This race does look like it's going to have a moderate early pace. I don't know how good she is, though, really, in the scheme of things. Numbers-wise, she's a cut below these. So that's one of the reasons why I defaulted to Moira, because really there isn't a standout here, and I hope that Moira is allowed to get a favorable early position. They're going to be galloping early, and we'll see who can kick home late. But I don't know. I mean, I've seen tougher EP Taylors, obviously without the Euros, so I don't see any reason why Moira, everything that she has to prove, I think she's going to be up to the task. So let's go with it.
All right. On that Woodbine card on Saturday, there's also the Nearctic Stakes for turf sprinters. This could be one leading into the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Bound for Nowhere for Wesley Ward going in that one. We expect to see that horse maybe at Keeneland in the Woodford Stakes, kind of a home game, but Wesley's got Golden Pal to run in the Woodford, so he splits up his troops pre-Breeders' Cup, and maybe he can get a nice score in the Nearctic there with Bound for Nowhere going on the undercard of the EP Taylor at Woodbine. Okay, Jeff, let's talk about Keeneland on Saturday. It's False Star Saturday, the big weekend that kicks off the racing at Keeneland, and we've got stakes races in the 6th race, the Woodford, where Golden Pal will be running as a very short price favorite. You've got the Thoroughbred Club of America in race number 7 for the filly and mare sprint set. Sconson's in there. Bell's the one. Did not answer the bell for this race, so the rivalry is on pause for now, but an interesting renewal there of the Thoroughbred Club of America. But race number 8 is where we're going to get our handicapping started, and that's with the First Lady Stakes. This is a turf mile on the grass, and this race could go filly and mare turf if you want to stretch out. It could really more often produce horses for the Breeders' Cup Mile as the fillies cross over and run in the mile quite often. Chad Brown, obviously, very well represented in all the turf races at Keeneland. He's extremely well represented in here with 3 of the 6 runners. He's got Regal Glory, technical analysis, and in Italian among the field of 6. That also includes Vigilante's Way, Princess Grace, and Market Rumor. Are they taking down Brown, or do you have him here?
No, I mean, he's any one of those 3 would, if they won, would not surprise me. I obviously had to pick one and 6 to 5 in the morning line for Regal Glory, who I don't think she lost much in defeat in the 4-star day when she got beat by the boys. That was still a good race for her. She was there. She could have won, maybe should have won, but numbers wise, she's earned triple digit buyers in 5 of her last 6 starts. So she's pretty consistent. She's won 12 out of 20. Nothing wrong with that. She's won at Keeneland. And although an Italian ran terrific when she won the Diana, I mean, she was not in the same league in the Just a Game against Regal Glory. So I'm going to assume that she's going to bounce back with a winning effort. And then we'll see what Chad does, whether he gets ambitious enough to try to maybe run her in the Breeders' Cup mile. I mean, why not? I don't think she's much more than a mile or so.
Right.
If she's going to show up, that's where it would be.
Yeah, if Chad's going to send one of these horses long, it'd probably be Technical Analysis, I would think, is run up to the mile and an eighth. But mile and 3/8 to go in the Breeders' Cup filly Meritsurf is a long way to go against some very stout competition. So, yeah, I would expect these horses in the First Lady and the 8th race on Saturday at Keeneland to be horses that are prospects perhaps for the Breeders' Cup mile against the boys. I took a shot in here with an Italian to beat Regal Glory just because I don't see a lot of other speed in here, Jeff. Princess Grace has a little bit of early foot, but doesn't really go to the front that often. Technical Analysis is a little bit of speed, but going farther. And I don't think Chad's going to send the two of them after each other. So I think they let In Italian set the pace here. And if they do so, and Joelle Rosario's able to get a breather, maybe she takes him wire to wire here. But like you said, any one of the 3 look like a possibility for Brown. But Regal Glory obviously looks like the most likely winner and the horse who's been in the best form, right?
Yeah, I mean, your point about an Italian, let's not sell her short. She's only had 7 starts, and being a daughter of Dubawi, I mean, who knows how good she really is? I mean, I found her Diana win to be terrific, and if they give her the lead again, and as you project the pace flow, it's certainly possible, if not probable. We'll find out how good she is as well, because there was nothing wrong with the career top effort that she produced in the Diana, given the trip that she got, and she may get the same kind of trip right back.
If you're handicapping these stakes races this weekend at Keeneland, something to keep in mind. I went back and looked in the database at Keeneland.com that I helped create many moons ago. We've had in the last 5 years, the opening weekend at Keeneland, 49 stakes races during this Fall Stars weekend. 17 of the winners came from Saratoga preps. If you look at Churchill and Kentucky Downs combined, they have 18. So the Saratoga horses have really flexed their muscles in the stakes races during this opening weekend. So keep an eye not only just for the First Lady that we talk about, but all of the stakes races beginning today at Keeneland through Sunday. The horses prepped at Saratoga have won over a third of the stakes races. And again, as many as Kentucky Downs and Churchill Downs combined over the last 5 years. So that's probably the best prep path. Also at Keeneland on Saturday, our next handicapping jaunt will go to the Breeders' Futurity, sponsored by Claiborne Farms. Mile and a 16th here is a Breeders' Cup juvenile prep, and it's been a pretty successful one over the years. And it's produced some nice horses. Of course, Rattle and Roll last year, Essential Quality 2 years back. A little ditty named Knicks Go upset this thing at 70-1 before Knicks Go was Knicks Go to everybody, Jeff. So this is a race that's got some good recent history. And, of course, going back historically has been very productive as well. But who knows who might come out of this and be the next good thing. I know in our Stars of Tomorrow segment on our Tuesday It's Official podcast, we featured a horse named Loggins a couple weeks ago after the debut win. Tell us about Loggins, who from post 2 in here could be the speed in the Breeders' Futurity.
This is a really good edition of this race. This is the best 2-year-old race I've seen so far in terms of the depth. There are so many in here that look like they could be good, including Loggins, who, as you mentioned, we featured him on our podcast a couple of weeks ago after he graduated at First Asking and did it like a real comer. Won the race by 8, did it the right way, drew off, came home fast, wasn't knocked about, and as a son of Ghost Sapper and out of a mare by Blame, you would think that he would, whatever he could do going 6.5, he's going to do better going a lot distance to ground. I love his inside draw. If he breaks running, he should be right in the fray, if not in front. We know he doesn't need the lead to win. He's come back and breezed well. 4th fastest of 111 works, 47-3 for Brad Cox. That really catches my eye. And he is one of these colts that really has an incredible amount of upside. Now, this is a tough task. He's coming back relatively quick. He's stretching out. He's trying winners. I mean, obviously good winners. We'll see if this is too much too soon, but I'm not sure it is. And that's why I'm thinking that he's got a chance to verify that highly favorable impression he made a couple of weeks ago and come right back and do it again. Brad's got another horse in here, Instant Coffee, who was sharp in victory at Saratoga. 85 buyer number, just 5 points lower than what Loggins earned. Why can't he step forward? Colt by Bolt de Oro. So, I mean, this is a loaded race. Now, as far as Forte is concerned, he won the Hopeful.
Right.
I don't know about him, quite frankly. You know, it was a sloppy track. I'm not always that confident and form accomplished on a sloppy surface. I'm not sure that beating Gulfport means a whole lot anymore. So I want to take a wait and see attitude with him. If he's a good colt and if he wins this race, tip my hat to him. There's no reason why he couldn't.
Right.
But I'm going to go with Loggins. That's the one that, you know, on the goosebump scale, he scored the highest. When I watched him run, I said, okay, that's a good horse. I don't have to worry about it. And so let's see how good Loggins is.
Forte, you mentioned, you know, winning the Hopeful last time. He beat Gulfport. Gulfport came back and didn't run, you know, his race again. And the Champagne looks like an early season 2-year-old who's going the wrong direction. But Blazing Sevens, the third place finisher in the Hopeful, did win that Champagne. The way the track conditions have been and sloppy and everything like that, it's hard to really analyze that New York form in these 2-year-old races. The New York horse I liked was Instant Coffee. You had mentioned that Saratoga debut win. I just liked there was a little bit of trouble, was down inside, professional, right? You got an education in the race and really just looked like a comer, just kept coming in that race, finished and be on the wire well. So I think Instant Coffee is going to be obviously the better price of the two. I think Loggins will get a bit heavier. I thought Instant Coffee merits a shot in here in a 14-horse field coming from off the pace. You got to work your way through, though. Luis Saez has had a really good run at Keeneland in the last several years, so you get a good pilot. Quick thought on Newgate, Jeff, the Californian who's coming east, a horse who won easily in the debut, but then well beaten in the Del Mar Futurity. Any hay can be made for him in this race?
He breezed awful well here, a minute flat October 1st. So I think that you don't usually see Bob Baffert ship a horse that's 20-1. But he's kind of want to split him up a little bit. I think he's going to run pretty well. I was very disappointed in this Del Mar Futurity race, not so much that he couldn't beat Cave Rock, but because he didn't really finish as well as I thought. But he came back October 1st and breezed with Cave Rock, and I got to be honest with you, he looked just as good. Now, I don't know if that's a knock against Cave Rock or not, or maybe Newgate is better than his last race shows. I did like his maiden win. There was nothing wrong with that. Right. So I think he's better than 20-1. And there's a horse that I definitely feel they're going to send. And I definitely feel he's got a chance to clear this field. And if he gets loose on the lead and runs like he works, 20-1, he's more dangerous than that would indicate. So, yes, he's one of several in here that look capable of stepping up. And leaving the form behind. One thing I do want to mention, unfortunately, we don't have the video of the workout, but I'm kind of assuming that Loggins worked with Instant Coffee on October 1st. They both got the same time. That's the kind of work that I'd kind of like to see or would be able to see. Yeah. So anyway, we'll have to kind of assume that they both worked well. But I liked your pick of Instant Coffee, and I like my pick of Loggins. And if they ran 1-2, it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah. Brad Cox, exact the box there in Kentucky. And one thing, too, with Cox, I know I did a lot of stats and trends and stuff for the opening weekend. Brad Cox, over the last 5 years, has won 10 races opening weekend at Keeneland. 8 of them have been with 2-year-olds. He's got his 2-year-olds ready to go right out of the box, and he's got the 2-year-olds to beat, perhaps, according to Jeff and I, in the Breeders' Futurity on Saturday. Let's go next at Keeneland to the Turf Mile, the Coolmore sponsored Turf Mile. For many years, sponsored by Shadwell Farm. So if you remember, the Shadwell Mile, same race, just a different sponsor here. Mile on the grass, of course, a big prep here for the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile, the Breeders' Cup Mile on turf. Coming up in 4 weeks' time now at Keeneland. So these horses get a chance to get a spin over the racetrack and a capacity field in here, Jeff. And this is a really good group. I mean, this is a race that it's our express bet race of the week. If you want to get my analysis in written form for this one, be sure to check out news.first.com and expressbet.com, where I've got full analysis of the Coolmore Turf Mile. Jeff, I mean, Smooth Like Straight, as consistent as you get. You got horses in here like Mason, Ivar, Casa Creed, Some Like It Hot Brown, Set Pete's the strong closer for Brad Cox. And then you've got the Breeders' Cup Mile winner from the last time we were at Keeneland, right? Back in 2020, the Breeders' Cup Mile winner was Order of Australia. And now, 2 years later, back to Keeneland and trying to take down this Coolmore Turf Mile. So very interesting cast of characters in this one.
Yeah, this is a very deep race. You mentioned you analyzed this race and wrote it up, and there are a lot of bases to cover here. I can tell you that. The first thing I noticed was Smooth Like Straight, and then I spent the next half hour trying to figure out who was going to wear him down late, as we've seen so many times in the past. Poor horse is just stuck on seconds, and he's running good races. He just can't seem to close the door there. But I wouldn't be shocked if he won. I mean, he's due, and he keeps running well. And I think it's like 9 straight triple-digit Beyer numbers, so it's not like his form is falling apart. He's just been a little bit unlucky. Even if you could come up with some magical formula that would tell you who the best horse is, you still got to get a trip here somewhere. And the pace situation is a little volatile, traffic and all that. They're all going to kind of finish in a heap, I would imagine. I will say this, though. I have been impressed with Casa Creed. I never really considered him to be, real, I mean, he's always been a good horse, not a top-class horse. In fact, he was 37-1 in the Breeders' Cup Mile at Del Mar last November, and then he went to Dubai and didn't do all that well. But boy, his last 2 races were good. I mean, he won the Jaipur. He rallied and won that race and flew home. And then I thought, okay, well, he's probably most effective around one turn. And then he won the 4-star David. He really earned that one. Now, that was good. He had the rail. He got shuffled back. He rallied wide. That was for real. I mean, his last 2 races have been outstanding. And the only thing is, he's 2-0-0-0 over the Keeneland turf course, but he might be a better type this time now. I don't know. So I ended up picking Casa Creed. That if I were playing any kind of rolling exotics like a pick 3 or pick 4, you can be sure that this is a spread race. Now, you've done maybe a little bit more. I'm sure you have more in-depth analysis than I have in this race. I'd like to default to you on this one. What did you come up with?
I thought there was a lot of pace, and like Smooth Like Straight seems to have somebody come and get him at some point. But you got Classic Causeway down on the rail, who's just a 3-year-old taking on older horses now. Smooth Like Straight in the 2-hole right next to him. I think this is going to be a fast pace, and so I think a horse from off the pace has a really good shot in here. And Casa Creed was one of the 2 that I came down to, the other being Ivar. I think they're the 2 best finishers in the race, and Ivar's run well over this course in the past, and was 4th in this race last year, beating 2 lengths. Joe Talamo rides, and it's Paulo Lobo, the trainer. Ivar won this race 2 years ago, and then last year ran 2 lengths behind stablemate In Love. Paulo Lobo trains In Love as well, so he's won this race 2 years in a row, looking for the 3-peat. So I've got Ivar and Casa Creed as the 2 closers in here, and I'm going to use both of those horses in all my tickets, multi-race wagers. I think the closer wins this race. I'm kind of like tilted on the 2 of them, but I think Ivar is going to be a good price, and I give him the shot in here. Casa Creed, a lot of respect though, coming off this win last time out in the 4-star day.
Ran the half in 47-4. Mason sits in second, and the mare Regal Glory on the outside in third, followed by Front Run the Fed and Casa Creed, and now they're going around the far turn. It is still Get Smoking with Mason in pursuit in second, and now Regal Glory is asked to move on the outside, and she's in gear as the field comes to the top of the stretch. Casa Creed follows the move of Regal Glory as they head for home now. It is Get Smokin', Mason on the outside, Regal Glory, and they're moving now for the 16th pole. It's Get Smokin', it's Mason, it's Casa Creed on the outside, and then Regal Glory. Here is Casa Creed, who makes the last move, the winning move in the Grade 1 for.
So Casa Creed, top pick for Jeff, and right in that mix with me as well. I'm going to use 2 of them in there, Ivar and Casa Creed. One last note about the Coolmore Turf Mile, race number 10, Saturday at Keeneland. Favorites have lost the last 7 years in a row. Of those winners, check these prices out: 9-1, 23-1, 8-1, 14-1, and 12-1. Those 5 winners in just the last 7 years. So if you like a price horse in this big capacity field, do not be shy. I mean, you definitely want to give this one a shot if you find a horse at a bit of a price you like. Let's go to Santa Anita now on Saturday to take a look at the program at the Great Race Place with a couple stakes races that will handicap: the Rodeo Drive and the American Pharaoh. Chandelier Stakes also on the card on Saturday at Santa Anita, so you'll want to be sure to get Mr. Siegel's full card analysis, news.first.com and expressbet.com. He's got it all for you every single day mapped out at Santa Anita. Jeff, let's go to the Rodeo Drive. It's always a good place to go shopping. Race number 5 on that Saturday card. This is the Filly and Meritsurf division. They're going 1.25 miles in this one. And we've got a field of 7. Who'd you end up with?
This is a tough race because it's a tactical race. And once again, you're looking at a situation with a pace that might come up a little soft here. Now, Niche Blanche has won gate to wire. I don't know whether they'll employ that kind of strategy. She won going 1.25 miles, a race just like this. Not maybe as tough, but they were aggressive that day, and they might send her. Although when she did win that, when she went 3/4 and 1:13 and 4, so she was just kind of galloping.
Yeah,
I think in this race, going to Vegas is going to get aggressive. Now, she won this race last year, gate to wire, and she did it stylishly, and she also did it with a career top buyer number. And I think based on this workout that took place just about a week ago, I think that she's spot on to come right back. Maybe was a little tad short in the maybe when she was third that day, didn't get a great trip. But with that race tightener behind her, the pace situation is going to be much softer here. I think that Rispoli and Phil D'Amato are going to say, okay, you got the 3-hole, you're inside of Niche Blanche. Just let her run out of there and let her establish the running, just as she did when she won this very same race last year. And I love this breeze. You can see her; she's being asked a little bit after going off slowly, but you're going to see turning into the stretch here. She's going to grab the bridle and she's going to finish under wraps. This tells me that she is really sharp. She's Phil does breeze his horses in company. This one, for whatever reason, decides to let her go alone. Chirped to just a little bit, and she came home in 23-2 in this work. So this was good. I think going to Vegas now is spot on. Whether or not she's really, a grade 1 horse, so without getting some help up front or getting a lone F type of trip, I don't know. Family Way is coming out of a series of good races, but she doesn't seem to always get there. And Fluffy Socks is good enough, but she hasn't won this year, so
right.
It's a tough race. I'm going to go with the front runner. I always default to Phil D'Amato in grass races here when I have a choice, and I got one here, so I'm going to go with going to Vegas. She is listed at 5-2 on the morning line.
You mentioned Fluffy Socks. Chad Brown sending that one west. We've seen her make the trip west in the past, Del Mar Oaks last year, and also the American Oaks at Santa Anita. So she's used to traveling, and Chad's used to splitting up his Filly and Meritsurf division runners. We mentioned he's taken 2 to Canada for the EP Taylor on Saturday. Fluffy Socks to California. I mean, he's got him spread, and then he's got his fillies running at Keeneland in the turf mile races. So in the First Lady. It's good to be Chad Brown when it comes to fillies and mares on the turf, at least. Of course, that comment with the news of this year may not necessarily be an appropriate comment, but when we talk about his fillies and mares on the turf, he is an absolutely loaded barn. And he's got to move them around to find places to run them. Chandelier Stakes on Saturday at Santa Anita will go as race number 6. That's this next stakes on the program. But the next stakes we're going to handicap is the 8th, the American Pharaoh. So let's go to that 2-year-old test. 1 mile and a 16th on the main track, Jeff. This is always a very important race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile division, especially in years where the Breeders' Cup is on the West Coast. I always like that West in the West and East in the East kind of feel sometimes with the prep races for the Breeders' Cup. But we've seen horses from California come east and run well in the Breeders' Cup as well. Might we see one this year, and might it come out of the American Pharaoh?
Maybe. This was a hard race for me because when I originally handicapped, I said, okay, this is easy. I can spend 3 minutes on this one. Cave Rock is 4-5 on the morning line. It's a Baffert. He earned a triple-digit buyer when he won his debut at Del Mar, won by 6, came back and verified that race by winning the Belmont Futurity did it the right way, went blazingly fast, shook off a stablemate and drew off 1 by 5. On paper, doesn't he look like unbeatable? I mean, to me, he does, and he's by Arrogate. Why is he even sprinting? So that all of that made this race for me easy. Okay, Cave Rock's going to win, but then I watched his last workout, and I'm glad we have this because this is actually Hijazi, and Hijazi worked a lot better to me than Cave Rock did. And Cave Rock, as I mentioned, you can see this on XBTV, worked with Newgate, the 20-1 shot at Keeneland, and I thought Newgate was going the better. Now, this is Baffert's other horse, the maiden Hijazi, and I think based on the way this race shapes up with all the pace, Hijazi is going to run huge, and I'm not so sure that he might not be able to upset Cave Rock. This was a workout we had, 59-2. He's outside. Now, keep in mind, he's a Bernardini colt who's never routed. 2 sprints and a stretch out, that pattern. And does he not look like a horse who wants to settle off the pace and make a run? He's under wraps here, and he is going to finish really, really well. He's still going breezing. And in this race, in the American Pharaoh, there's going to be a ton of speed in front of him. They're going to grab him, take him back, and make one run. And again, he's never routed, but I think that's what he's been waiting to do. He's a maiden, but he's a good maiden. In the last 50 yards of this work, you can see what this colt might be capable of doing if they take a hold, grab, let the pace go, and that includes Cave Rock, who's fast, and then turn this one loose from the quarter pole to the wire. I think he's got a really decent sort of chance to upset Baffert's heavily backed Cave Rock.
And Hijazi was runner-up last time, the Speedboat Beach, who came back to win the stakes race on the turf sprint side last week, I believe. So the Speakeasy, I think it was called. So Speedboat Beach is a horse going to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, perhaps sprint. And this horse was second, going 5.5. Hijazi to him last time. Another horse in the American Pharaoh, Jeff, I want to bring up is Skinner. We've talked about this horse going into the Del Mar Futurity as a maiden for John Shurows, who just looks like a horse who's just being progressed along for a route opportunity. And he came along and ran the non-threatening third, almost as, we foreshadowed before the Del Mar Futurity, and saying, bump, bump, bump. It was like, it's like volleyball. I've been watching a lot of volleyball lately, the old bump, set, and spike. So he got the bump in the debut. They set him up last time in Del Mar Futurity. Now he gets the route. This is the one that if he's a good horse, he'll try to put away. And I think that Skinner's an interesting horse here. He's never run fast on numbers, but you mentioned there's a lot of pace in here. If Cave Rock and some of the others get into it and come back, any chance Skinner is the horse who ends up in the winner's circle?
I think he's a good colt. Maybe 2-3 months down the road, he'll be there. He's still a little bit too green for my liking, but even in the Del Mar Futurity, he was kind of all over the place a little bit, didn't really level like I thought he was going to. He still finished third, and I think he's being by Curlin. I think his best days are ahead of him. I know what they're trying to do here. They'd like him to maybe qualify for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and the only way you can do that is to win this race. Or at least prove that he's good enough to run in there and then maybe try to get in. I just don't know if he's quite there yet. To me, Hijazi is like Skinner, only I think he's just a little bit more experienced, a little bit more advanced at this stage. Let's not forget Hijazi cost $3.2 million in the 2-year-old training sale. He's kind of like, supposed to be good. But I tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a closer win this race because the other contenders are all speed. And unless they grab him, which might not even be the right thing to do with Cave Rock, I don't know. He might be vulnerable. This is an intriguing race, not just from a gambling standpoint, if you want to try to beat the odds-on favorite, but from a potentially who's going to be the best 2-year-old in the country type of. I think this race and the Keeneland race are going to produce that. I don't know what's going to happen, but that's why they run the races, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we saw, Forte and the horses in New York. We haven't been, overwhelmed by that group. So Kentucky, California, they've got a chance to step up with the stars of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Division. That's always the headline race on that Freshman Friday card on Breeders' Cup weekend. So looking forward to these two big races, the American Pharaoh, of course, and then the Keeneland Breeders' Futurity on Saturday. Another stakes coming up for us on the program for Saturday's action is the Joe Hurst Turf Classic at Belmont at the Belmont at the Big A, Belmont at Aqueduct, back, whatever you want to call it. They're running in New York on Saturday, and it's the Joe Hurst Turf Classic, named after the famed turf rider. Warlike Goddess, the interesting entrant in here, Jeff. The mare is 5 years old now. She's been so good. Surprisingly defeated, though, at 20 cents on the dollar in the Flower Bowl last time on September the 3rd. They come back at 1.5 miles on the grass and take on the boys in this one. Competition for her includes horses like Adamo for Chad Brown, stablemate Rock Emperor, Gufo, and Soldier Rising for Christophe Clement, amongst this field of 7. Is it the mare in here? Are we taking Warlike Goddess, or are you leaning towards one of the Colton Geldings?
Well, I think Bill Mott probably wasn't terribly thrilled with the ride he got from Joel Rosario in the Flower Bowl. Well, I know what Rosario was doing. He had won the Glens Falls 2 races back, and they had crawled that day. And Warlike Goddess just only ran like about 50 yards or so,
right.
And won that race. And I think he was saying, I'm 20 cents on the dollar. I'll probably end up doing the same thing. They're going to crawl 3/4 and 19-2 and win. And she really didn't have the best of runs. Obviously, she got clear too late. She tried to quicken, which she did in the final 16th, but she really was given too much to do in a race that really she should never have lost. So now they're trying her with the boys. I get it. This is not a stellar group, although if you look at Gufo, his form is pretty solid. I mean, he's obviously in good form. So he's the one to beat. But this is going to be the same kind of race that Warlike Goddess just comes out of in the Flower Bowl, where they're probably just going to be galloping. I mean, Can you see a 3/4 and 118 again? I certainly think there's a possibility at Aqueduct, and we'll see. I mean, Warlike Goddess has never run here at the Big A, but I don't think that should be a bother. I don't think there's a gamble here at 7-5 on the morning line, but I do think she's going to find a way to win, and then we'll see what Mott decides. Does he run her back against the fillies and mares? Does she tackle the boys in the Breeders' Cup? He'll have an option one way or the other.
And almost every horse in the race, in fact, I'm just glancing at it real quick. In fact, it is true. Every horse in the race has a change of jockey for this race.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the top pilots are at Keeneland for the weekend. Sure. And, Rosario rode Warlike Goddess, as you mentioned. Also, the regular rider for Gufo. Now we're changing it up to Lescano and Alvarado. On those riding for Chad Brown, not a jock trainer combo you see a ton of. He's riding at Amo for him. Rock Emperor gets Javier Castellano on a jock change. So how these horses will be ridden by different pilots could be a little bit different too from what the style we see on paper. That also clouds the Joe Hurst Turf Classic in terms of the pace situation and how muddled it might look. Bye Melvin probably goes right to the front, though. I mean, he hasn't run fast to go to the front in the last 2, but has made the front. He's on the rail for Fergal Lynch, riding this one coming up from Maryland to ride for Grand Motion. So Bye Melvin probably goes to the front and becomes the target for somebody else. And we'll see if Warlike Goddess can punch it home on Saturday in the Joe Hurst Turf Classic. Let's go to one Sunday race that we want to hit here to wrap up the podcast, Jeff. It's the Spinster Stakes at Keeneland. One of the most telling preps for the Breeders' Cup historically. For a long time, it was the most productive prep race for the Breeders' Cup in producing winners for the Distaffs. The Breeders' Cup Distaff. It's also produced a horse who ran in the Filly Mare Sprint, I believe, and ran pretty well in recent years. So we know that the Juddmonte Spencer can produce a horse for the Breeders' Cup. We've got a couple in here this year that are certainly headed there. Malathot and Latruska. Latruska, the defending champion in this race, trying to win it back-to-back. Just her second local appearance. She'll try to get to 2 for 2 at Keeneland. Malathot's already 2 for 2 at Keeneland, Jeff. She's won the Ashland and the Double Dog Dare. Looking for the trifecta of Keeneland filly and mare stakes races in her brief career as a 4-year-old. It's probably one of those 2, but the field also is rounded out by the Black-Eyed Susan winner from a year ago, Army Wife. And then we've got Played Hard and Princess of Cairo to round out the field. For all intents and purposes, though, sir, Sunday Spinster looks like a match race, right? It's Latruska up front. It's Malathot trying to come and get her.
I think Malathot's going to verify that personal Ensign win, which I thought was really, really good. Mm-hmm. She had trained better in the interim between her Chuvy defeat, which was not a good race for her, and then her bounce back in the Personal Ensign. And if you look at the works, we haven't seen them. We don't have any video of them. But after winning that race August 27th, you see a Bullet half mile 47 and 2. You see a Bullet 5/8 and 59 and 2, a Bullet 5/8 and 59 and 4. That tells me that, you know, when she works well, she runs well, and she's working well, and she's got that inside draw. Plus, she's going to have the opportunity, I think, to let Latruska go, and then maybe have Play Hard do the dirty work, and let maybe just kind of sit behind both of them. We know Malathat obviously likes Keeneland. She's 2 for 2. And the way she won the Personal Ensign, the way she's trained well, and the way this race sets up for her, it's going to be hard for me to believe that Malathat is not going to continue her razor sharp form and win this race, and then carry that form into maybe a favorites role, perhaps, depending upon what Nest does, in what should be a spectacular Breeders' Cup Distaff. So I'm looking for Malathat to win. Latruska may or may not be as good as she used to be. It'd be kind of neat to see her bounce back and win, but I'm not so sure that she's quite where she needs to be the present version of Malathat.
There's no better rehearsal for a Breeders' Cup Distaff at Keeneland than the Spinster. Same track, same distance, 4 weeks apart. Let's see them show down here and what that means when we get to the Breeders' Cup November 4th and 5th. You mentioned that Distaff division could be absolutely fabulous. Running in the Beldame on the same day, Sunday, as Nest, and what looks to be almost a walkover. There's really no competition for her. She'll be 1-5, 1-9 in that spot. Steve Asmussen's got his pair. He's got Clariere. He's got the Cotillion winner. He's got horses for the Breeders' Cup Distaff that are outstanding at this point in time. Lucas Stills probably has the filly in the mix there, the Kentucky Oaks winner, Secret Oath. So this year's Breeders' Cup Distaff is shaping up to be one of the really, really strong divisions.
It is. And if you remember last year's race at Del Mar, where there was that crazy suicidal pace that kind of muddled the entire race, I don't think we'll see that here, and I don't think we'll see that down the road in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. I think it'll be a really great race with at least a half a dozen legitimate contenders in a race that, you're going to have to – you win it, you're the champion. That's the way it should be.
So you're telling me don't look for an $80 horse from Japan again, or whatever the heck that one paid?
No, I didn't feel badly when she won, because that was a horse I could never have had. So it wasn't like I should have had that. No, I couldn't have had it. Forget it. Move on to the next one.
That's going to wrap up our podcast for this week on the First Call podcast. Express Bet and First Bet invite you to play on their platforms this weekend. Again, we've got a $30,000 series of hit and split promotions, anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000 on the various pick fours this weekend at Keeneland. So hit those on the Express Bet or First Bet platform, and not only do you cash your pair of mutual money, you'll get a split of $30,000 in the individual pools from First Bet and Express Bet. So get involved with those Keeneland pick fours this weekend. Also, we want to remind you, Charlestown's Breeders' Classic on Saturday night, the West Virginia Breeders' Classics. Get it right, Plunk. $10 money back special on those races. So if your win bets finish second or third in any of the races Saturday night at Old Charlestown, you'll get your money back in the form of wagering credit. So huge weekend, Jeff. It gets started here just moments from now. Belmont Park will be rolling in its pick six with a $200,000 plus carryover. Opening day at Keeneland. So want to let you know we've got some First Bet artificial intelligence picks for Friday posted on the news.first.com website. So if you want to see what the bot and the algorithms have to say about all six races in the pick six today at Belmont at Aqueduct, as well as the 3 stakes at Keeneland, we invite you to go check that out. More coverage of the Breeders' Cup as we ramp up to things. Check out John White's blog. He takes a look ahead at his projected odds and the contenders for the Breeders' Cup Classic in his weekly it's post-time blog. So check out John at expressbet.com and also at news.first.com. Big weekend, Jeff. Can't wait for it. Give us your final thoughts.
Well, it is. It's like we're loaded this week. It's like a playoffs now. You want to get into the title of the championship round, the final four, whatever it is, and you got to earn your way in. And there are going to be a lot of races that will determine who steps forward and gets a chance to run on Breeders' Cup Day, and especially with the 2-year-olds. And you mentioned there's so many other races that we didn't even touch upon out here at Santa Anita. We've got several stakes races. We've got a good sprint race. We've got 2-year-olds going long on the grass. It's just everywhere you've got stakes races. So I'm going to get my DVR out and I'm going to record everything, and then I'll be able to go back and analyze them, because they'll be flying by. Every 5 minutes there'll be another race that you're going to have to watch, and then that'll be done and go here and go there. So it'll be fun, but hopefully we've helped a little bit and let's make some money and save it up, and then have some ammunition for Breeders' Cup Day.
Yeah, not only good betting this weekend, but good preparation and study time towards the Breeders' Cup and horses that we're going to see back in a month. That's going to wrap up this week's First Call podcast. On behalf of everybody with First Bet, my partner Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great week. We'll talk to you on Tuesday when we have It's Official to make the weekend's top 5 topics all official. Talk to you then.